Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's Jmann. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm Jmann.
And I'm number one fan, Tim.
But it is our 250th episode.
You picked a humdinger for it.
June 8th. I received a very panicked phone call. It was
the Beast.
And she proceeded to tell me that the gentleman that she had been seeing and that had been living with her was somehow spying on her through every internet-ready device in her house.
Go on.
Anything with a camera, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, because she thought the telephone on the wall...
Not internet-ready. But he was monitoring, everything she was doing. He bought her this, I'm going to air quote this, phone. It's a phone. It's basically a blank device that you can program into being a phone. And he set it up for her. Her email, her Facebook, her fucking everything. So he basically made it so that he had access to all of her shit to keep tabs on her.
Huh.
So while she's crying into the phone about what a fucking maniac he is and how she doesn't feel safe and that he's got crazy computer hacker skills, that she had a phone that she took to T-Mobile and they couldn't unlock it after 45 minutes of fucking around, and he unlocked it in 2 minutes, and that he used her laptop, allegedly, to access the dark web to use Bitcoin to purchase meth.
You don't say.
And then I'm like, oh, okay. She's like, so yeah, I used, because I was really stressed out. I'm like, hang on, what do you mean you used? Well, it doesn't matter. I'm like, it kind of does. You're asking me to be sympathetic to all that you're going through, and then you're trying to admit to me that you did something. So what did you use? Was it meth? Was it heroin? Clearly it's not weed, because you wouldn't even bring up that, because I know about it. And she admits to me that there was meth, and she used some. I'm like, really? She's like, well, he gave it to me and just I used. And she's still fucking rambling on scatterbrain. She's like, and it kind of turned into like a 2-week binge. I'm like, do tell.
Please tell me you recorded this.
No, I don't have the means to do that. Not on my phone.
Even your phone should have an audio recording thing, or you call somebody and have them listen and write shit down.
So, one, she tells me that she wants me to contact the FBI for her about her computer hacker boyfriend guy that she kicked out because he's such a maniac. And this goes back to the 3 or 4 times that she's kicked him out for being a drunk and welcomed him back in. And she's like, he emotionally manipulated me. He made me think that he loved me, and it's like he was just using me for a place to stay, and it's like, oh, you think? God, it's been so fucking crazy the last few months, and I should have probably written down cliff notes to myself about this, so I'm trying to go off the top of my head. So she admits to the meth use, and I'm like, when was this? She's like, I don't know. I'm like, I have a sneaking suspicion that you were high the weekend before I brought them home, and then they had lice. She's like, well, yeah, probably. I'm like, so then they came home to you, and you had no voice because you weren't screaming about how angry you were that your house needed all these repairs. You were hoarse because you were smoking crank, you stupid bitch. And then the kids were around while you were under the influence. I didn't do it with them around. No, the kids were around well, you were still under the influence. So that was Monday midday. And I was very concerned about all that had gone on. So I filed an online report with the FBI. And she had Loverboy call the FBI. And they didn't seem concerned when he called. They never got back to me. The local police told her to talk to the FBI. And I'm like, it's interesting that the local police that enforce the laws don't seem at all in any way interested in the interference with privacy portion of this. That's a law that they can enforce. They don't need the FBI for that shit. Now, tracking his online comings and goings, And the fact that he was using a Ring doorbell mounted over your garage to monitor when you came and went when he wasn't around. And lest we forget the multiple times he took her vehicle to, quote, run an errand. So he was basically going out and probably doing drug deals. She admits to me that, I guess he's been using meth on and off for 15 years, but he just hit it really well for me when we were friends. I'm like, you're fucking stupid.
The track marks and the bad teeth weren't a giveaway?
He doesn't really have meth mouth. You gotta be real fucking desperate to shoot meth.
That's right, you smoke meth, don't you?
You can shoot it, you can smoke it, you can snort it. That's called hot railing. Or you can eat it, which is her former method of usage many, many years ago. She hasn't touched this shit in like 11 years.
Okay, I watched all of Breaking Bad, and yeah, I think they all smoked it in there.
There was some snorting. Like Tuco.
Tuco he snorted it. But
Tuco was snorting it.
I thought he was doing that because he was just fucking psycho, not because that was an actual way to do it.
Yeah. Okay, so that was Monday afternoon, Monday night. The juice is at therapy, and I get a very concerned call from the Beast because she was doing like a remote therapy session over the internet, and she said to her therapist that she's not sure she wants to be alive anymore because she doesn't feel she has anyone to talk to, and she can't discuss her feelings with either of her parents, and she hates being at her mom's. Therapist is a mandated reporter.
Yeah. So then
the Beast gets a call from CPS, and they take a very active interest in what's been going on over there. So that was Monday. And in between Monday and Wednesday, some phone calls were made. I called the Mobile Crisis Unit. Now, the reason I'm familiar with what one of those is because in Ramsey County, when you call the police and ask for the Mental Health Crisis Unit, they put you through to an officer who specializes in that and can help line you up with some resources and such. You can call and try to get somebody, examined or talked to or put them on the radar.
Mm-hmm.
Where we live, they said, and I quote, well, there's not much we can do unless she calls us for help. And I went, what the fuck? I'm like, bro, I'm not just some average dick. I'm a social worker. And the big counties, you call their mental health crisis teams, they get involved. So you're telling me you can't even call her to see what's up? He's like, well, I'll have to ask my supervisor. I'm like, well, you do that. And then he calls me back. They said we can try to give her a call. It's like, oh, really? Can you do that? We're not putting you out too much? You fucking twat. So the Beast gets a call from them. She's like, why the fuck are you doing this to me? I'm like, you called me frantic. You said a bunch of shit that if I didn't know you, I would have thought that you're out of your fucking mind. Call the FBI. He's monitoring me through my smart TV and watching me with my phone and a Ring doorbell. And lest we forget the tablets that he bought for our daughters to use while they were in Missouri for the trip that you took them on against my wishes. And then I logged him onto my own fucking home Wi-Fi network. Like, how do I know he's not trying to get into my shit? Because once upon a time ago, at the end of May, about the time that they were on their little trip, I magically had something happen with the Facebook group for the show where it booted me out. It booted me out of my own group, and then it said 0 members. And then I had to rejoin the group, and once I did that, it registered all the members again. Like, really fucking weird shit. So I figured either him fucking with me via Facebook and his little hacky bullshit, or because I put on an episode about George Floyd, 50-50. You never know, because Facebook loves to censor people.
Well, they love to censor certain people.
Yeah.
Not everybody.
If you're conservative, they'll definitely look at what you're saying and try to censor you or declare it fake news.
Yeah, it's hate speech, but if you put a picture of a cop up with his head being blown off, oh, that's fine. That meets our community standards.
Yeah.
Yeah, fucktards.
So Wednesday, I'm mowing the lawn, and I check my phone, and I have a missed call from the Beast, and then a text that says, are you home? Okay. I go look out front. Well, she's here at my house. And she's here with Ivy and the girls. And tells me I need to take the girls because she needs to get into treatment. and she needs to do this and that to get her life together right now. And she's making it like all about the head games that this dude she was dating played with her, right? And she's, oh my God, I'm such a victim. I'm like, I'm just saying this as somebody, like an outside observer. It's your own fucking fault. He gave you a phone. You put everything, every email, your bank, your fucking Facebook. You gave him unfettered access to every goddamn possible part of your online life. And you wonder why he's got control over you. And you're sitting here crying for sympathy? You fucking brought this on yourself. And her reply was, boy, you must be a really shitty social worker to be blaming a victim of domestic abuse. I'm like, this isn't domestic abuse, you stupid cunt. You let your drug-addicted, crooked-ass criminal boyfriend live with you, and then he fucking took over your shit. We don't know where the kid's Nintendo Switch is. I've assumed he fucking pawned it for drugs.
Most likely.
You had money missing months ago, and you blamed him, and then he gaslighted you, and I told you he was gaslighting you, and you believed me, but then you flipped as soon as he came back. He, like, fucking came in and straight up mind-fucked you. You had the worst case of Stockholm Syndrome. It's like he was pulling David Koresh-style mind games on you. And you're going to tell me I'm victim-blaming? Suck a bag of dicks. It's like, well, what kind of social worker blames victims? Maybe I should call your job and tell them what you're doing. I'm like, fucking do it. Please, by all means, call and try to get me fired, sounding as much of a lunatic as you do right now. Because I deal with people that are developmentally disabled, but none of them are nearly as retarded as you. Maybe you need a caseworker in your life to manage your everyday comings and goings. Like, well, it's not going to be you. I'm like, oh, no, it wouldn't be me. That would be a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
So the whole time she's chewing me a new asshole, Ivy came for moral support to kind of keep things calm.
For you or for her?
I think both. She was trying to be neutral. So at some point, she's
you can't do that.
bitching and bitching and bitching. And Ivy's like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to sit here and listen to this shit. He's got some very valid points, but we don't need to get in them right now. And honestly, I doubt he's changed since when you started fucking him years ago. So just make your peace with it. He's never going to be any different than he is. He's an asshole. He's comfortable with it because he's good at it and it serves him well. Something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing.
That's her talking about you?
Yes.
That actually is you to a T.
You know, and I thanked Ivy for sticking up for me.
Thanks, Ivy.
Yeah.
You know me.
And anyways, so she drops the girls off with me. Why? Because she could smell it coming a mile away that CPS was about to fuck her life up. So then I get...
Fingers crossed, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Fingers
So then I get an interviewer calling me. The next day, I think it was. And she's like, can I come out to the house and interview your daughters? I'm like, by all means, yes. Because, truth be told, a number of people, including myself, had contacted CPS about the long-standing issue of substance abuse, emotional abuse, questionable mental health status of
the beast.
Go figure. And she interviews the girls, and she's like, no, they seem fine. They seem fine for what's going on right now. And I was just going to ask you a few more questions. I'm like, look, you have to talk to the beast, right? She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to tell you right now, she's going to say probably some crazy-sounding shit about me. Anytime she's right there on the hot seat, she immediately starts pointing fingers elsewhere to try to deflect attention away to what other people are doing. Because she never has to face her own problems or issues or shortcomings. So I will tell you this right now. I spank my daughters. I have spanked them most of their life. I don't beat my kids. I don't like to do it. I tell them I don't like to do it. I've gone periods of months on end without doing it, and then sometimes I bring it back. Other than that, I yell at them when they deserve it. That is it. This is a pretty good environment.
It's an environment where discipline and expectations are there.
I'm like, the only other thing I do to them physical punishment-wise is if I catch one of them stealing, I make them put their hands out and I slap their hands and say, we don't steal in this house. And I'm like, and you're lucky because in some countries, they'd cut your hands off. I'm like, but that's like a whole other thing. She's like, okay, I don't really condone physical punishment personally, but it's your right to do it. And as long as you're not like causing emotional harm or leaving bruises, it's fine. I'm like, so I'm supposed to bring them back in a few days, but I really don't want to do that. She's like, oh, no, you're not going to do that. She writes me a safety plan. The girls are to stay with their father until it is deemed safe for them to go back to their mother. Now, this is not a legally binding document.
The beast
hit the motherfucking ceiling when she found out about this. That the kids could not go to her house or see her. So she's calling lawyers for legal advice and, well, they're going to look at my mental health situation. And I'm like, yeah, I think that's the least of your worries, because when she was here, I brought up that I was a victim of domestic assault at your hands once upon a time ago. And she's like, oh, yeah, I already read the report. She's already delving into every police report in all the local municipalities, and you have some in 3 of them. Like, she's going asshole deep on you. So you better fucking get ready, because they are not going to use lube.
Ow.
And then she's like, well, what if I show up with the cops? I'm like, do it. But I got this piece of paper that says that you can't have them. And they're going to abide by that. Well, what you're doing is illegal. Like, it's not.
What the fuck?
It's not, because a government agency took our children out of your care and put them solely into mine, you fuckwit. Because of a situation that you caused yourself by choice.
Yeah, it's not like you said, you're not getting the girls back. The county said, you're not getting your girls back.
Right. And the best part was, she says to me, well, my custodial rights haven't been eliminated. I still have the same level of custody. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know about this shit. I've never been in this position, shockingly. But I'm going to sit here and tell you that we're going to go with what they say. And I brought them over to see you today, not to fucking fight with you. And the whole time I was there with her, she's fucking laying into me, trying to get a rise out of me. And I just...
With the cops there?
No. This is just when the girls and I took a walk to her house to see her. Out of the kindness of my heart for their benefit, I brought them to see her so they could hug her and stop crying and make them feel better. Well, then fast forward to like the next Monday. So this is a week later. So June 15th, roughly, I think. And the investigator says, we're going to set up a visitation schedule. One where you guys, by your ex's wishes, meet at a neutral place to exchange them, and then they go to her house and are supervised by a third party that's not you, because you guys have somewhat of a tumultuous relationship, it seems. And I wanted to be like, oh, you think so?
Read the writing on the wall, did you?
And I said to him, like, look, I know it's not your place to take sides, and I don't know what's written in every police report, but I call when I need to. Like when she makes comments to the effect of that one time, I just need to find someone to kill him. You know, like she did, I don't know, a year and a half or 2 ago. I'm like, she's the one who instigates most of this. If we get into it, it's because she has no patience. She's ill-tempered. She abuses substances, and she cannot fucking handle the rigors of adult life. So the first night we got a visit, and she picked a local police station to exchange the kids. Could have been my house, could have been her house, but she said she didn't want me in her driveway, which was a fucking joke. I had to drive to the police station in a goddamn thunderstorm. I had to wake up my son from a nap and haul him out in the goddamn rain. And I had to make sure that my wife left her vehicle here for me to transport all fucking 5 of them. It was a shit show, and I'm like, I get that you want her to have visitation for my kids' mental health, but for the consideration of the rest of my family, you cannot expect me to be driving to drop them off and then driving home, and then driving to pick them up and driving them home. I have small children, younger than these 2, and I'm not going to have my schedule completely fucked up by her demanding that we meet at a neutral spot. Lover boy picked them up that night because he was supervising, which is fine. I was cool with it. They have a kid together too. He was there with his daughter. What it came down to is that I got it so that the other party that's supervising would drop them off or pick them up most of the time.
Wasn't anybody you knew about, like, your family? Or
it was her mom. It was Loverboy. It was her friend.
Why friendly to her? Like, people that are not going to tattle on her for doing something stupid.
Well, that's the thing, is she admitted to the meth use to both me and Loverboy.
It doesn't matter if she admitted it.
It actually matters quite a bit, Timothy, as the visits in question were taking place at her house.
And then, because I had urged other people that knew about this to speak up on my behalf to help me out with CPS, she had no choice but to come clean about the drug use. And I got a letter that said she copped to it. So I'm going to fucking frame that thing. And there was a night where she came here when we were recording. If you recall, it was a Sunday night.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And she's outside with the girls. And this is a few weeks into the whole visitation schedule. And it was funny because she was here pissing and moaning. I'm like, I didn't actually have to let you be here. I did that for them. So don't act like I'm the one that created this mess. You did. I didn't do drugs. You did. That was the first time I said it in front of the kids. I was told not to bring it up in front of the kids if I could help it because they don't need to know all these adult themes, which I don't fucking agree with.
I think the more these kids know about their both parents, you and their mother, the better off they're going to be.
Well, Ivy agreed with not telling them because she comes from a really rough upbringing too. And she's like, the more I knew, the more it fucked me up. So I said that in front of the beast, right? The next day, this is I don't know how many weeks later on a Monday, she's pissing and moaning about not wanting to come here or have me at her house, for the drop-off and the pickup. And it was great because we were in a group chat. And I said, well, it's funny that you feel that way today when you came here to my house to see the girls last night. What's changed in the last 16 hours? She couldn't say shit. So then they turned her case over to somebody new, a short-term caseworker with CPS, watched over the thing. They wanted her to take piss tests. She's notoriously gun-shy. She cannot pee in front of people unless there's water running or music playing or something. A lot of people are like that. But the lab they sent her to wouldn't do it. They said, we're not going to waste the water. Well, are you in the business of getting shit done? Because if you want to get shit done for people to take UAs that say, I can't go, run some fucking water. I had inmates at the jail all the time, like, crank the water all the way on and I dial it down to just a trickle. I'm like, no. We're just going to have a calm, quiet little drip, drip, drip here. We're not going to waste gallons of water while you sit here and don't heed my advice. I said stop pushing, take a breath and relax. When you push, it clenches the muscles around your bladder and you can't piss. How do I know you're pushing? Because you keep farting. And not like they're just falling out of you. It sounds like you're about to shit your pants. So me, being the guard that stood here for thousands of these, who do you think knows better? Me or your fucking shy bladder? Take a breath, let it out slow, stop fucking pushing. 9 times out of 10 it worked. All right, she can't figure that shit out. So she couldn't pee. They thought it was suspicious. They did a blood draw at her expense. They did a follicle test at her expense. They put sweat patches on that traced the amount of drugs she had in her system. And it tracked the percentage of it that was in her system over a span of weeks, right? They were here for 50-some days straight. So they're tracking her progress on these patches. And it goes down, and it goes down, and then it goes to nothing, and then went up a little bit. And she's like, what the fuck? The interesting thing is, I'm pretty sure the lab fucked up, which is kind of humorous to me.
Not uncommon, though.
They took 2 patches at once. The numbers went 70, 30, 0, 20. It should have gone 70, 30, 20, 0. She wasn't still using. But I was fine with whatever was going on.
You were giving her the benefit of the doubt?
Yeah.
Not something I would have done.
At some point near the end of all this, there was a night where the juice left, I think it was her bike outside or something. I told her to go pick it up. And she doesn't. Like, all you had to do was go outside and go pick that up. And she says, I hate it here. I'm sick of this and I don't want to be alive anymore. And I went, what the fuck did you just say? All you had to do was put your bike away. And you didn't. And I gave you 3 opportunities. And you didn't. And everybody else I asked did. And now you're crying because I'm saying you can't watch TV or play video games the rest of the night. That's called a punishment. That's how that shit works. You don't get to do whatever you want. but you're damn sure not going to make fucking self-harm statements. She said the words, well, I'll just kill myself. I'm like, do you even know what the fuck that means? It's like, yeah, it means I won't be alive anymore. I'm like, okay, well, let me ask you this. How would you do it? Well, I don't know. I guess run away or something, jump off a bridge maybe? I'm like, jump off a bridge. Do you even know how fucking high you have to be to make that dive worth your fucking attempt? Do you want to be dead or just have a broken neck and legs? Come on now.
The high bridge down to St. Paul might work.
Yeah, but she's got to walk there. She's 9.
I'm just saying.
So here's the deal. I get her in the kitchen. My wife spends 20 minutes talking to her about how dangerous self-harm speak can be and how you can get locked away for that shit for simply saying it repeatedly. Doesn't necessarily sink in. And then I'm like, well, we're going to call your mom. I'm not going to talk to her. I'm like, oh, but you are. She calls her mom. The beast gets on the phone. What's wrong? What's wrong? Let me talk to your dad. I try to tell her what's going on. She will not let me tell her the fucking story. She's like, well, are you going to take her into the hospital or am I? I'm like, no. I told her that you can get put on a 3-day psych hold for that. Well, she needs to be evaluated by somebody. She needs to talk to somebody. I'm like, I don't think she does. You're not a psychologist. And she hung up on me. Jesus. That's without actually hearing what the fuck happened or talking to her daughter. This went on for 58 minutes, I think, roughly. The first 28, she just kept screaming at me every time I called, and she hung up on me. And then the next half an hour, I had the juice keep calling her repeatedly. And finally, the juice said, Mommy, I don't want to go anywhere and talk to some person I don't know. I just want to talk to you how I feel. No, baby, no, you need to go in and talk to somebody who knows about this stuff, who can help you.
Why wouldn't you want to talk to your daughter for 5 fucking minutes?
Because the whole thing was a fucking ploy to try to make me look bad for not taking her in.
If that's her day of a ploy, she just made herself look like a shit mom. Mom, why won't you talk to me? I just want to talk to you, Mom. No, you're going to go talk to somebody in the hospital you don't know. Mm-hmm. God, Mom, you're a fucking bitch.
So I said I wasn't going to take her. I said, I have skills that were developed over years from dealing with people in similar mindsets that are in crisis. It's called CIT, Critical Incident Training. You handle people that are actively in a crisis. You evaluate what's really going on. You let them talk and you listen. And if they're making suicidal statements or have a self-harm ideation, you gauge whether or not they really mean it. If it's they're just having an emotional outburst. If they have a plan. And if they are actively trying to seek out the means to complete that plan. None of that fit.
Based on what you told me, none of it fit, yeah.
So with my training, I told the beast I wasn't taking her in. 10 minutes later, there's a knock on the door. And I went, boy, I wonder if that's going to be the police. And I pulled up the fucking blinds. I'm like, hello, officer. I'll be right out. I go around.
Jesus Christ.
She sent the cop over and basically chewed me a new asshole to him that I wasn't taking our daughter in because she's threatening to kill herself. And I told him the real situation from start to finish and what's been going on. He's like, I'll be honest with you. On my way over here, because of your ex's name, one of my coworkers warned me about you guys. I'm like, well, that's not cool, but whatever. He's like, well, no. It just, there's been a lot of context. I understand that you guys don't get along the greatest, but I'm going to talk to your daughter. He did. And she went back in the house. He's like, she's fine. She gets it. You did everything I would have done, especially the CIT thing. Good on you. And here's something I want you to know that I found interesting. When your ex called me, she spent more time telling me things that she thought you were doing wrong than she did making statements about being worried about your daughter or what she said or was proposing. So she spent almost the entirety of our call trying to dig you a ditch. Like, isn't that interesting? Thank you for having the presence of mind to notice that. So here's where it gets to kind of a shitty end. I get the call. They get to go home to her. They say, you can bring them home Sunday night like the end of any other weekend, which would not have been a problem if the day that I had to bring them back was not my fucking birthday.
No.
I was an emotional wreck all day for a number of reasons. My job right now sucks terribly. The situation with the kids was bad. This pandemic bullshit, I am not the only person to be at my wit's fucking end with 2020. But to have to bring my kids back to their fucking dipshit, abusive, bitch-ass mom on my fucking birthday, that killed me. And I brought them home, and I came home, and I just went and sat in their fucking room. And I said, everybody leave me the fuck alone. And then a few days later, I was laying in bed, trying to get my shit together. And I wake up to a text message from the beast aunt who lives in Arkansas. And it's a text message with a screenshot. And I see that the gentleman she threw out, the guy that got her to do drugs, part of the reason that she didn't have her kids for 50-some days, that she was so scared I called the FBI, they're engaged.
Oh, God.
He announced it and shared it with her Facebook page. And then her aunt sent that to me. And then I sent that to Loverboy, and he went, what the fuck? I don't want him anywhere near my kid or yours. That guy's a fucking creep, and I hate his guts. I forwarded it to Ivy, who said, that's it, I'm walking away. I love Boo Boo Baby. I'm glad that I'm her godmother, but I can no longer support this woman. Hasn't talked to her since. Her mother walked away from her. Her aunt said, I'm done with you. And I just basically had to say to the beast, if this many people in your life have said to you, this is a bad idea, we don't support this, do you really think it's because we want you to be alone and miserable? Or is it because they care about you enough to give you the tough love you need to hopefully guide you to making a rational decision on this? And since then, it hasn't come up much, other than I dealt with the fact that she's had my kids around him. And I was just like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. And I told my kids, no, I don't want him in your life. And at first, the juice is like, whoa, I don't know how I feel about that. And Chi-Chi, you know, she's 7. She's like, I don't trust him, and I don't want him living with me, and I don't want him to be my stepdad. That was on a weekend. I bring him home. I see him the next day. Well, Mommy talked to us, and it's all right now.
The fuck it is.
I'm like, oh, so now your mom's playing fucking Jedi mind tricks on you, programming you. Holy shit. This woman has fucking Stockholm Syndrome. And she's kind of cooled off and said things like, well, I'm not going to get married now. I told him he has to be sober for X amount of time. I'm like, well, we all know he's not going to care.
Well, supposedly he's already hid it from you for the entire time you guys were together.
Right. So the beast was really adamant that I never talk about this on the air. But frankly, you've done too much emotional damage to me over the years for me to be considerate of your wants and needs, because you don't care about mine. I am basically a pawn in your game. I'm a button that you push. You love to get my blood boiling. And as I've told my daughters, over the course of my life, cumulatively, and I had to define that word for them, like overall, no one has ever treated me as poorly as your mom. And she's been doing this at virtually the same rate for 10 years. So if I'm an asshole, that is why. If I have a short temper, that is why. If I have any number of anger issues, that is why. And if I never met your mom, I would be an entirely different person, and you two would not exist. Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It? That is at What Do We Call It? You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/What Do We Call It podcast show. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm Jmann.
And I'm number one fan, Tim.
And that's the end.